Welcome to Making Sales Simple, podcast by Helen T-Bay, Sales Lady. So I'm really excited to have the legendary Claire Sewell here from the Swell Coach. So pleased you could join us all the way from New Zealand. So it's night time where you are now. It's daytime here. Thank you so much for staying up and doing this, because I really wanted the insight that I gleaned from you when we worked together. I wanted to get that out and share with my network, because I really think it's going to help people who are struggling with selling to just simplify it down, make it feel a lot easier. They can start taking some action. So that's what I was hoping for today. We could go through one of the biggest hurdles that we have, which is our own mind and our own thoughts, which is your absolute jam. So hence me wanting you here. So just do us a little introduction, Claire. Tell us a little bit about you, your business, what your purpose and your work is.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's just a delight to be on your podcast, given our relationship, and just me watching you and your business flourish has been amazing. So my business is Swell Coach. I work mainly with female leaders, entrepreneurs, and helping them create more ease and flow in their day and go through their work life with a more sort of joyful, light state of being, I guess. And so that's, taking things like stress and mental fatigue and overwhelm and, things like imposter syndrome and self-doubt, and really just turning those on their head so they can see them for what they are and allow their natural self and abilities and talent to sort of shine through more frequently.
Oh God, can you imagine if we all did a little bit more of that, how much better we'd feel and how much different the world would be. Just be
well, you know yourself, right? And I know too, like the transformation that just understanding how our mind works has made in my life, and I know certainly for yours as well.
So going back, I think it was about 3 years ago, maybe 4, we started working together, and I remember it being a bit of a pipe dream of maybe I could own my own business, maybe I could do this. And look where we are, look what's happened. So this is actual work this actually happens. This is tangible, results that you could touch and feel. So this isn't just airy fairy woo woo stuff that's just all about whatever. It's actual work. When you put the effort in and you start doing this work, things change for you. Epic things happen. Things feel easier. And I think a lot of the time people come to me, as they do to yourself, to say, look, I've got this scenario and I want it to feel easier. For me, it's always selling. I want sales to feel easier, different somehow, not as pushy, aggressive. I just don't want to have to hustle all the time. And that hustle is sort of creating a lot of tension and pressure, and it's perceived that is from external sources. Well, you and I know that is often coming from our thoughts that we're creating for ourselves. So I wondered if you'd just go through the basics of when we say a sales mindset and our thoughts and feelings about sales, what do we mean by that? What's the common things that people come to you with when we say we want to change our sales mindset? What is that?
Well, I mean, firstly, people don't generally say that, do they? They don't come to us thinking, I want to change my sales mindset. They come thinking, I've got a problem with sales, or I'm not good at sales, or I hate sales, or sales makes me feel so uncomfortable. Yes. So as you're saying, it looks like it's an external thing. We take a thought, I hate sales, and we objectify it. We put it out there as if it's something that we need to do something with. And so understanding the idea of a sales mindset is actually everything starts, our entire reality starts from thought, starts from in our mind. Our perception on what we think of anything is creating our reality of that. And so, people, the biggest challenge with any of this work is that our thoughts are completely invisible to us. Yeah, so we're trained so it looks like it's out there. The world is happening to us rather than actually the world is happening through us, through how we're perceiving something or how we're thinking about something. Yeah. So like you're saying, the challenge is people think that they need a better website, or they need a better funnel, or whatever the external thing is. That's the problem, without recognizing, actually, I just need to look at what, I need to look at what the heck's going on in my head around this. That's what we're talking about, mindset. It's the start of everything.
Yeah, it's a really good fundamental, and I think you taught me that, and it's enabled me to sort of see, whenever I think, oh God, it's that, I'm like, it's not the external thing, Helen, it's what you're making it mean, it's what you're thinking about it. Like, what are you making it mean? What are you making it mean about you specifically? I think they're two really good questions that you taught me to sort of go within and have a look, and there's always something that floats up, always, and then go and work on that, go and take the action there. Really good. So what are the common thoughts that trip us up? What are the most common ones that you have heard related to sales, or related to selling, the act of selling? What kind of comes up?
Well, I just rattled a few off before, but that's pretty much it, isn't it? Like the idea of, and you've said the same, I don't want people to think that I'm pushy.
Yeah.
I don't want, I don't like selling. Selling makes me feel icky. I feel dirty with sales. There's such a collective negative connotation around the word sales.
Yeah.
That came from, all the movies, the Hollywood movies, like The Boiler Room, and that sort of stuff. So there is a real negativity around the word sales.
Yeah. So
people generally think it's just not for me, or I'm not good at it. I don't like it. I don't want to do sales. Those are pretty much the most common ones.
I would say they're the ones that I hear the most as well. I'm not good at it. It's not for me. There's a thought that you have to change yourself or modify yourself to be good at it. I'm not naturally an aggressive person. I'm like, well, the best salespeople are not aggressive with their approach. They're actually the opposite. They sit back and, explore with a customer and be consultative. That's not aggressive. And I think there's a lot of the time people think you're born with it or you're not. So I'm like, I'm not an extrovert, so I can't do sales. It's just
or I don't have the gift of the gab.
That's it. That's a good one. And I used to get that a lot. They were like, well, you're all right because you can talk. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't make me a good salesperson. If anything, it's probably works against me, especially in my younger years. And so it's about having a look at the sales as being a set of skills that you master, just like a sport or a language. You just get better and better at it. And a huge part of this is looking at what you're thinking about selling and the act of selling and sales, and what you think about the experiences that you give your customers, what you think about your offer, everything. It's got everything to do with it. So that's why I wanted to grab your insight and get you on the podcast. So if somebody is going through that mental thought of, I don't think I'm really that good at selling or sales, what would you say for them to do? Because we hear about reframing quite a bit, and you and I have just talked about that. How do people go? Well, I acknowledge and I recognize I'm having those thoughts. Now, what do I do?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that we really need to fundamentally do is change our relationship with the word sales. Because, you talk about a set of skills to be a good salesperson. But the thing is, or the reality is, we're all really good at sales. Yeah. We've been selling since we were 3 years old and trying to convince our mum and dad to give us, buy us an ice block or something, right? This is a very natural part of being a human being, because sales is really just about connection.
Yeah, love that.
So I think the first thing we have to do is just recognize that every single one of us are great at sales. And the only problem that we have is this relationship we have with the term sales. And as you said before, what are we making that word mean? And what are we making that word mean about us? So it is a relationship issue to start off with. We talked about it's mental, everything's mental. So let's look at the relationship that we all have with the word sales, and what do we think about it, and what are we making it mean? So that's the kind of the first thing, right?
Yeah, I love
and
that.
I think fundamentally to see that our capacity as human beings is that we're designed to connect. And I think one of the biggest misunderstandings, and we've evolved in our understanding with sales over probably the last 10, 20 years, but one of the biggest misunderstandings is that I have to sell to you, and then you have to, it's all about me making you do what I want you to do, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, it's just not, it's really not that at all. Like,
No.
it's about, the biggest challenge that people have with sales is that we're putting the spotlight on us. And I remember sharing this analogy with you, when we were working together, like the moment we start focusing on ourselves, which we are naturally self-obsessed.
Yeah.
So we're going to think, oh, what if they don't like my offer, or what if they think I'm too expensive? Like me, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as we start putting the spotlight on ourselves, naturally the thoughts of insecurity, doubt, lack are going to come in. So we're going to feel uncomfortable. Well, we've got to look at, in terms of the internal exploration, is what do I really think about myself and the value that I'm offering in my marketplace? What do I really think about the product and how it can transform someone's life? Like, what do I really think I'm offering to a person, and how can I make their day easier by having this conversation, by sharing with them what I know? Like, putting the spotlight on them. How can I help them? What do they need? Do they even need what I have, right? So it's that, we talk about like a connection, and then connecting with another person to understand what it is that they need. Like sales is really serving. And I know that's an old cheesy saying, but far out, it really is.
I really am seeing that more when it's done well. When it's done really poorly, it is that like I am pursuing you somehow for my gain. And then that's going to feel different for you and for the end user, the client or the potential client. They're going to feel somehow like you're trying to coerce the conversation, to control it, to move it somewhere for you, for your gain, for your goal. And they pick up on that. And it's a very subtle nuance as well. So I've had salespeople that are like, no, I definitely didn't say anything like that. I didn't do anything like that. If you've got the thought, it will be coming out. And that's why I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were like, I got offered this stuff, and this product, and I really needed some marketing banners and things, and it would have been great, but there was just something that it just seems too good to be true, and the other person who was selling just seemed to want to get rid of it, and I didn't really know why, and so it's something that just didn't ring true. It felt like it was more for them than for me. Like they were going to offload it. They just needed to offload this stuff, and I was going to be the one that like they offloaded it to. And it didn't seem like it was for me. And I'm like, because it probably wasn't, because they were leading from a thought, hypothesizing that that's exactly what was in their head. I need to get rid of this. And that's how you feel it, and that's how you experience it. So it's going to feel different. One's going to feel like I am pursuing you for my gain, tracking down, and another one's going to feel kind of lighter, more exploratory, bit of space, bit of distance, like just it's okay to say yes, it's okay to say no, it's okay to say anything, because I'm not going to make it mean anything about me. One point you mentioned before, which I love, and I teach this as well, is delight your clients before they become a client. Like just what can you help them with? What can you give them a little step of relief from? What can you give them like that first bit of knowledge? How can you help them on a discovery call? Even if they say no, are you going to leave them with what experience? You decide. So I love that. I've just written some notes down of what you've said there, and I hope my audience is listening to this, because this is just so key. This is where it all is. This is how you change how sales feels for you and your client.
Yeah, and I love what you were saying before as well. Like you're referencing, without actually saying it, like energy is everything.
Yeah.
And so, when we are electromagnetic beings that are very, very sensitive to energy. And so that person you were talking about that was saying there's just something that I don't know what it was, but there was just something, is their energy. And the three biggest influences on energy, because everything is energy, is our thoughts, our feelings, and our language. So, we're picking up on energy all the time. Our energy says hello before we even walk into a room, which is why mindset is so, so key, because if you're not connected to who you are, what your intention is, like, the value that you can offer, being of service to your customer or client, or being of value to them, then somewhere your energy is going to be off and it's going to be picked up. And we've all been in that situation, right? We've all been with someone where it just felt a little bit uncomfortable or someone felt a little bit desperate, whether it was a date or selling something online. No. We feel it. We're very sensitive to energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's what we pick up on. And then we often translate into that external, oh, that must mean this then. And it's usually something, the external stuff, rather than actually, what am I making that mean? Because that's everything, really. Really good. So that sort of answers a really big question around, why does thought matter so much in sales? Like what you're thinking, feeling, the language you portray, the energy, how you show up. Imagine showing up to a sales conversation with me and me thinking you don't have the money, or you can't afford it, or you're just wasting my time, or you're never going to convert to a sale. You're going to feel that no matter what I say or do, because everything comes out through that thought, through that energetics. Whereas if I just came to the call going, you know what, I believe my clients are quite resourceful and this could be an opportunity to help someone, and why don't I just sit and listen and see what they've got to say and see how I can help them. I wonder what questions are going to come up and what I can ask them. I wonder how I can leave them in a better place than when they came onto the call, even if they don't choose to work with me. That's kind of how I approach it and how I teach people, because it feels easier as well. And it's like you said, it's the highest form. We are serving people. This isn't like something that you do to a person, or you like manipulate or sort of coerce it to a prescribed outcome. Yes.
Yeah. Sales is a marathon, not a sprint, right? And I love that, because so is building relationships. Because all we're doing in sales is building relationships. And so if we go into every connection with, this is a long game, rather than, does this person want my product? No, they're not interested. Burn, 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 burn. Yeah. Because, that everything unfolds from having a conversation, and the person that you speak to may not be interested in your product or may not need what you offer, but they have a network themselves. And if you're imprinting on them in that one conversation, what you do, the value you offer, how much you care, how fun you are, like just how cool you are as a person, right? If you're imprinting that onto them, then what a wonderful mark to leave on someone who, when it comes up in conversation that they, about the service or product that you offer, you come to their mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it really is a long game. Like it's just, and that, like you say, it's way more fun playing that way because because we're building relationships, and relationships are long lasting. And it's so much more value when you actually create a long-term relationship and all that flourishes that comes out of that, rather than just one sale. You can have many, 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 as well as a fun, wonderful, fruitful relationship.
Yeah, I love it. That is my ethos. That's what I'm trying to change the world, so that people see sales more like that, rather than this aggressive, pushy, like get everyone to say yes, back them in a corner. The things like the ABC, always be closing, it just makes like it's been done. It's might work for some people, but there's a lighter way to do it that feels easier.
Yeah, and I think there's truth in what you're saying. Like it does work for some people, and some people have that, are that way inclined that that's their jam. Churn and burn, and it works for them. Yeah. But then there's other people who are more sensitive to, like the way that they do business is just different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's where our method of selling is, like you say, a lot lighter. We can come to it with more ease and flow, because actually we don't have there's no blockages that we've got in reaching out to people when we start having this sort of curiosity and this sort of ethos around what we're trying to do. Like, because, jumping on, if you're social selling, for example, jumping into LinkedIn and starting to build, relationships through comments, and then jumping into the DMs because you do want to find out more about this person. You're interested in what they're, you're interested in building a relationship with them. That actually feels more like that. It's a natural progression than just, I'm just going to DM them to try and get something out of them, right?
Yeah.
That feels ick. That's where we naturally as human beings go, oh, something not right about that.
Yeah, definitely. I love this. So I've just made some notes as you've been talking, but my top 3 takeaways for this, and I'm going to ask you for your top tip for, okay, if you're noticing this, what do you do next? Like, how do you shift this? But for me, I think the first thing is to get a better relationship with sales. Like, what are you making selling and sales mean? What are you making that mean about you? So like really clean up that relationship that you've got with it, so it feels more in alignment. So when you're talking, you're not like bristling inside or grating inside. The second thing is put the spotlight on them, not us. So anything that starts with I feel like okay, really surefire sign that like, hang on, I'm making this about me. What about the client? What about the person in front of me? What can I do for them? Try and delight them before they even become a client. Like, what can you do for them irrelevant of the outcome? How can you help them? And thoughts, feelings, and energy, the energetics of you, everything. So if you've got a chink somewhere or a blockage, instead of looking externally, try and look internally. Where are you finding it weird, uncomfortable, icky? Where is it not safe or secure for you right now? Do you not want to hear a no? What are you making a no mean? That kind of stuff within the sales conversational process. And of course, this is exactly what I would help people with, and what you help them with. So this is something that takes a bit of time to curate and to learn. But I would say if you could go and do those things, you would immediately feel lighter in some way, or you start to have an awareness of what's happening, and you can take those next steps and start to shift how you're approaching sales.
Awareness is everything. Well, I that's a wonderful summary. I think, awareness is everything, like starting to get aware of that voice in our head. We can't change something we're not aware of, right? And then just to reinforce what you're saying, I think number 4, which you said, talking about the energetics, the first sign of that we've got something to look into for ourselves is the feeling of discomfort. So rather than looking outside and thinking, it's the person, it's the situation, it's sales, if you've got anything going on within you, any discomfort, any ick, if you're procrastinating, it's our emotional guidance system is always letting us know where we've got a self-perception that's out of alignment with the truth of who we are. So any discomfort that we're ever feeling is our own guidance system saying, Mayday, Mayday, you've got something internal that you need to look at. You've got a perception of yourself that's going on that needs to be healed. So, the very first thing, even before healing our relationship with sales and understanding, what we offer is really getting clear on what value do we perceive that we're offering? Like, what do we think about ourselves?
Claire, this is gold.
What do we think about ourselves, and what do we think about the value that we're offering? Getting really clear and healing that relationship first is vital in our relationship or our walk with sales.
Oh, I love it. This is amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. We could probably talk for days on this.
As you know, we do.
We've got like 15, 20 minutes. So I think that was everyone a snapshot of just, if you can just take 1 or 2 things from this and just go and do something different in a sales conversation, that would be my biggest want from this, that someone goes out there and goes, do you know what? Yeah, I'm really approaching this slightly different. Let me go and like reset this and just recalibrate and go and try something. So really go and put these steps into action, having that awareness, healing the relationship, looking at the value you deliver, getting the spotlight off you and onto the customer. How can you delight people in your discovery call, irrelevant of if they buy or not? And what are your thoughts, feeling, and energy telling you? Like, what's going on for you? Really look inwardly with that. Know that shows up before anything. So Yeah, I think that's such a good start for someone. So if you've got any of them thoughts that we said at the beginning, I don't like sales, I'm not cut out for it, I don't want to be aggressive, I feel really, ick about selling and saying my pricing and anything like that, just go and work through this podcast and see what jumps out, and then go and take some different action. I think that's the biggest thing when we look at all of the work that we do. We have to go and take action at the end of it. Otherwise it's, we just think about it and then we don't do anything different. So that would be my want
Action
for my audience and your audience, that they hear something in this and they go and do something different. So yeah, thank you so much.
My favourite saying is go within and you'll never go without.
And you'll never go without. I love that. And that has stayed with me. Like I say, I think it's been about 4 years since we started speaking together, maybe even 5. But that always rings true, always, 100%. So just give everybody a little roundup then. How can they get hold of you? How can they start looking at what you do, Claire? What's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, LinkedIn or Instagram. So my handle is Claire at Claire Swell on Instagram, Swell, or Claire Sewell on LinkedIn, Sewell.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's where I do most of my work.
That's it. And I would strongly suggest that you go and follow Claire and have a look at her videos. She does some really good reels and shorts where she explains what's going on, real life examples, and it just makes it so engaging and breaks down what we've talked about into like actual realistic what's happening in life, basically. So yeah, go and follow her, and connect with her. And I would really appreciate if you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, drop it a follow or subscribe on YouTube, and we can make sure that more people see and more people can hear this amazing insight from Claire. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Always been a joy, Helen. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Making Sales Simple, a podcast by Helen Tebow, the sales lady. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow me on Spotify for more.